Robert Golden,
Present.
Alice Lindahl is present. Patty Hatzistavarakis. I
Present.
think she's not muted anymore. And Philip Denny.
Present.
Thank you. You all approved the minutes before the meeting, before we posted them. So I don't think it's necessary to approve them again unless anybody wants to.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Alice. All right, we'll now move on to members' comments and questions. I believe everyone knows the procedure. I'm just going to share my screen and just remind you of etiquette here. Everyone will have 3 minutes to speak. Please listen to understand. Please be respectful, be concise, avoid repetition. So what we mean by that, if someone states your opinion, then you simply could say, I agree with so-and-so's point of view. You don't need to go through and repeat the same again. Please, let's all agree to disagree. We're here to challenge ideas. We're not here to challenge people. Use your phones and devices appropriately. Okay, so I'm going to, if you see on the participant, if you click on the participant box, you can see raise hand or lower hand. And I'll call on you and I'll unmute you and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, Jim Penny is up first. And Jim, you just need to, okay, so take it away, Jim.
Okay, very good. I noticed that you all just said that you approved the minutes. Last month, I made an issue out of saying that they're not always accurately reported, in addition to which I know it's very difficult. So I offered my comments in writing and said they could be attached to this month's minutes, and obviously they weren't. There is a list of on the agenda for this meeting, which reflects inaccurate minutes, but there's also a comment that says the ones that you all did not cover, well, no, you would cover with the ones that were appropriate. So there's still issues that are outstanding. When can the members come by and review checks as well as sign contracts? With regard to my many months-long concern about the infrastructure expenditures, the list that we were provided in July totaled $24,188. And I made it very clear last month that I was not concerned about minor differences, 10, 15, even maybe 20%. I understand estimates are estimates, but I was provided by a board member a copy of the contents of 4 invoices, none of which had signatures, who authorized it, etc. But those 4 contracts, which have been executed, totaled $45,577. That's a variance of 188%. That's not a minor deviation at all. And that's alarming. And by the way, the original 24,000 included an estimate of 3,500 for a dog park, which still hasn't been done. And I don't yet understand what other items may be outstanding. So I'm just alarmed about the expenditures. I realize that's past tense and expenditures have slowed down, but we still need to have a fair and accurate accounting. And I don't think that's been provided. And I've offered myself to come over and sit and go through any documents, but so far we haven't been provided permission to do that. And it shouldn't even require permission for us to do that. So those are my concerns. Oh, in addition to which, for some time now, I bring up the budget. We don't have a budget. There's a comment I noticed in today's agenda item about a budget, but we also need to have a members meeting, which is required. And I'd like a response to when can we have our required members meeting? Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
I'd like some response to some of that instead of just going on to the next person.
I actually don't want to enter right now into a dialogue about these individual points. I'll make some comments during my remarks later. I do want to say one thing, Jim. You are entitled, as any member is, to come in to fill out a form if you want particular documents to get access to documents. So you are entitled to that. There's a form in the office. You just go and fill it out and you'll get the document that you want.
And
well, you're muted, Jim. Jim?
I said access won't be denied then, is what you're saying.
No.
Okay, I'll do that and report back next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Richard Skidmore is next. Richard?
You muted me.
I'm sorry. You're good now.
So my comment is actually, I have a comment and a question, but my comment's actually related to minutes also. I submitted it in writing yesterday, but I didn't get a response. So as Jim noted, the minutes don't always accurately reflect what was said or reported or done in the board meetings. For example, the minutes from last month's meeting that were just posted, quote me as saying, I think Robert's pie chart regarding legal expenses is inaccurate, unquote. If you watch the meeting video, what I actually said was I appreciated Robert's pie chart. And again, I sound like a broken record, but I keep requesting an updated report on legal expenses to be posted to the website. So my question is, why was the pie chart that Robert showed us not included with the minutes and posted on the website? And then who changed the numbers? The numbers are different than what was shown to us in the meeting. The minutes now attribute over $65,000 to 4 members of LCA and Phil Denny. That wasn't on Robert's pie chart. And how could that be even with LCA having directors and officers insurance? It makes no sense to me. And just to note, I filled out that form that you just told Jim to fill out. And that's the only thing I've ever asked for in 8 years. And I got a response that I'd have to go to court if I wanted to see that document.
Well, okay. All right. So I will respond to that, Richard. So those numbers were perhaps updated. That's why the numbers went up since the October board meeting. And in fact, we even have new numbers in terms of the legal expenses.
If the numbers were updated, shouldn't the percentages change and the dates change? Because they didn't.
Okay. All right. So I will commit to putting on the website this week updated legal expenses. If you ask for legal invoices, those are privileged material and those will not be distributed.
I've never asked for invoices.
Okay. So the
I've never asked for that.
Okay, good. Then what did you ask for that said you have to go to court for?
In the last meeting, Alice said she submitted a petition and maps for Miley Street.
Right. And I
just simply asked to come in and see it.
Right. And we said that was privileged information, that people signed these petitions and that it wasn't for public consumption, it was for the consumption of the board those petitions were made. And that's why we're now just distributing them. Okay, okay.
That doesn't
it's not
satisfy my request.
All right, well, that's what we decided. Okay. Anything else, Richard, you want to bring up? Okay. All right. Next, Lee, you're next.
Okay. I've got just a brief question. I noticed that Lincoln Ishida is online right now. Right. Is the board of directors paying him right now his hourly fee to just monitor this when you all say that you record it? And
Okay.
why does he have to monitor it? Because he's not going to interrupt,
Right.
because
Let's
he's never said a word yet since all these meetings. And I'm concerned that we're talking about $7,000, $8,000 a year for him to just sit there and listen for no reason.
So Lincoln is sitting in on this meeting, and he's doing that pro bono, which means he is not charging us for this service. So I think that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay. David, you're next.
Yes, good evening. Robert, I had a question for you, and simply was, when is the next members meeting? I know it's 9 months late now. I see that we can have board meetings, but I'm kind of at a loss as to why we cannot have a members meeting. When is the board planning to call a members meeting?
That's a very good question. I don't have an answer to that question right now.
Why is that?
Because we haven't actually.
I know they have been asking for a period of time for a members meeting.
Okay.
What's the difficulty? If you could explain it to me, I might understand it better.
I believe, David, that you, by the end of tonight, you might have that request answered. Right now, I don't have an answer for that question.
Okay, so that will be made public on the website for
yes,
all?
Yes.
Okay, so then I can expect a meeting sometime in the near future.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate your response.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else have comments to want to make? Okay. Well, Lee, did you raise your hand again?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We have asked, I think it was brought up 2 months ago and was brought up last month. What is the status of the election that is supposed to take in early 2021? And is Andy now a 2-year or a 1-year person? Because there was only supposed to be 2 people taking a 2-year position. And so what is the status? Who's up for re-election? When's the election going to take place? All that.
Okay, so when the election, excellent question. Andy, Cheryl, and Alice all ran on a 3-year for a 2-year term. Cheryl subsequently stepped down. So it's Alice and Andy are serving 2-year terms. The question of the election, when that will take place, we'll be talking about that today.
Okay, you said that they ran on a 2-year term.
Yes.
But that was never brought up to the membership prior to the vote, only after the vote.
Well, that's not quite true. If you actually look at the minutes, and maybe the board member could correct me about that, but I believe it certainly was in the January minutes, if not previous to that, that was actually published. That they were running on a 2-year term.
If we're allowed to see the minutes, I'll look at it.
You are. They're all posted on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. David Dye, you're up.
I was driving on Kupono and Moku today. I guess that would be South Kupono, South Moku. And I was noticing the terrible shape of the roads there. I know it's been, nearly 2 years since the end of the eruption of Fissure 8. And I was wondering, what is the plan to repair those roads and make them suitable for driving?
Right. Thank you for that question, David. So the plan is that Michael will be spreading, I don't know what the correct term is, so gravel, on those roads to fill up the holes. It's not a permanent solution, it's just a temporary solution. And that we think it's an inappropriate use of funds to do anything more extensive than that, because that's the first order of business. And I'll talk about that in my remarks, the repaving of the roads. So repaving of Moku and Capono will hopefully be done, shortly within the new year.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anybody else raising their hand. I'll make some remarks, President's remarks. So what I really appreciated was the conversation I just had with the members, people who, I guess, to some disagree with the board, some things we've done, and that's great. I mean, I'm fine with that. And the more we can have conversations like that, I know Jim Penny and I have begun to have conversations, and I provide him with some material. It wasn't fully satisfactory for him, and I'll work to see that resolved. The same with Richard Skidmore, and hopefully he'll be satisfied by today's meeting. And I and the board strongly believe that the way through our difficulties, and the difficulties we're having, is really not any different than difficulties that the rest of the country is facing right now. But I can't stress enough, and I believe the board cannot stress enough, the value of just having conversation and talking things through. And to that end, in fact, I want to bring up something. It's not directly pertinent, but in many ways is, that I believe we need to start healing here in Leilani in terms of our different points of view. We need to start sitting down together and having conversations. And toward that end, I've actually started a group, maybe some of you've seen on website, called Moving the Conversation Forward, that Ann's on the line today, with Ann and Ima, and a person from outside of Leilani who is an expert facilitator in nonviolent communication. And we've been meeting, we've met now twice already, and we've decided in our meeting to actually invite 3 people, since there are 3 of us from Leilani. And we're not going to discuss Leilani issues per se, but we're going to discuss the people who actually voted for Trump. And you say, well, why are you bringing this up, Robert? What does Trump have to do with this? Because the whole idea of people sitting down and hearing other people's points of view and trying to come to some understanding. It's not about having convince people to think differently. It's just about at least that you feel heard. So we feel heard with each other. So I'm just using this time to invite 3 of you out there who might have in fact voted for Trump, who want to join in a conversation with 3 people who voted, on the other side, and to have a conversation to see how different sides can come together and have a conversation. And continuing along those lines, Alice Lindell will represent us. We've started an organization here in Lower Puna. Initially it was called the Imua Lower Puna, and it was very involved with the recovery efforts for the lava. And this organization helped represent all of Lower Puna in front of the council. And the organization has gone through some changes, and it's now, actually this organization, you might remember back in 2018, hosted a meeting with Mayor Kim to get people's voices heard about the lava situation 1 year after the lava. So now we have a new mayor, and about 15 representatives of different organizations all throughout Lower Puna are going to be meeting with Mitch Roth. And Alice will represent Leilani at that meeting. And so if you have thoughts that you would like to see her address with Mitch, please contact her directly. But again, it's all about having conversations. And I also ask, and I'm sure some of you probably get frustrated, think how come things aren't happening, more quickly. And certainly being in this position has got me to appreciate previous boards who had to deal with residents who felt things were going too slowly. But again, we're in this together. We've been through a lot. I mean, I've been here since 2014. We had Ezell, then we had the lava flow in Pahoa. 2018, we had the lava flow again that wiped out 1/3 of Leilani. And now we have COVID. And the more we can work together and appreciate what each other is doing rather than doubting each other's efforts, the more we're going to survive as a community. Okay. Next, Andy Andrews. Oh, wait a second. Sorry, one more thing. Forgot to announce. In terms of the election, please remember that January 1st is the nominations for the board are due. And I really want to emphasize this because this has been a real learning experience for me. It's the first time I've served in this capacity for 2 years. And I told you initially when I became president, I am not renewing, I'm not going to serve again. But just the idea of serving has given me tremendous experience. And I strongly believe in distributing leadership, and that other people who have not served, I hope will step up, you know, to put your name into nomination and serve this community and to experience what it means to be a board director and the responsibilities of being a board director. So we all together can make this community a better place to live. So again, January 1st will be the deadline for submitting nominations for the new board. Thank you. Andy.
The October profit and loss statement, otherwise known as an income statement, and the balance sheet are posted at this time on the LCA site for everyone to see and download if you so choose. And that's all I have right now.
Next on the agenda is the secretary, which is me, and I have a couple of announcements that have come my way. The folks who are the researchers studying rapid Ohia death will be here on December 2nd and 3rd. So those of you who have communicated with them to come to your house and look for survivor trees, they will be contacting you by email, and we are going to drive them around so they don't get lost. And we'll be spending a little bit of time at everybody's home. And it's not too late to sign up to have these guys take a look at your trees. So that's number one. And number two is that we are still working under COVID proclamation number 14 that has been announced by the state and by EGAY. And it is active from October 14th to November 30th. And it indicates that statewide, everyone is required to wear masks, especially indoors, and have social distancing of 6 feet. And those of you who've been to the community center can see that we've asked everybody in the community center to wear a mask. And I have heard on the radio that the group sizes should be no longer larger than 5. But I haven't seen that on the proclamation. It isn't printed on the proclamation. So I just heard that on the radio over and over again. So those are just 2 announcements. And that's all I have for the secretary's report. But the next report is also mine, which is the Standing Committee of the Squatter Elimination and Crime Reduction Committee. And all I have to report this month is that there has been a shift in behaviors of some of the nuisance centers in and around Leilani, and I can have the most to say about the one on our street, but we know that they are communicating much better with the other areas, and their new focus is car repair and car parts sales. They have lots and lots of people coming and going, buying parts, but also a very large number of people sticking around and working on cars all day and all night. We have pounding and hammering and sawing and blasting and also roaring up and down the streets to see if the car is working. So if you guys are hearing really loud car noises, this could be them trying out their cars. But it does put them out of reach of complaint to the police because, of course, just nuisance behavior like that. And dragging around all the car bodies is not anything that the police would make a trip out here to talk to them about. And you might notice some days that the compound where they work is all clean and tidy, at least to car bodies, because they remove them on the days when they report, and then they bring them back the next day. So that's all I have to say about what's happening with Secret this month. And any more business from the officers? If not, I will go right on to old business. And the CCNR report that I have is that a lot of people are clearing new properties right now. I counted 6 new ones, and whether or not people are immediately planning to build homes is unclear. But I've written letters to all the ones who are clearing land and do not yet have county permits or given us their house plans. They've been notified. It's quite usual for people to clear property and then leave for years, but there's always a chance that they're getting ready to build right away. So that's the CCNR report. And next is Robert Golden discussing speed hump proposals.
All right. So Richard and his groups have been very diligent in responding to our requests in terms of this proposal. I've submitted the proposal for 3 speed humps on Kahukai to the rest of the board. I've asked you to review it. And is there any discussion to be made? Well, first, let me make this motion. So my motion is, I want to motion to adopt the proposal in principle to establish 3 speed humps on Kahukai. In terms of where they want those speed humps, they have basically met the qualifications of the new speed hump policy. They have also asked the LCA to pick up the tab on that. And right now it's premature for us to make that decision because we have no idea exactly how much those will cost. We'll have a better idea once we have the crew, we pick the contractor who will be doing the paving, because what they want, and it makes sense to have the group who's doing the paving of the roads use that tar asphalt to make those speed humps. That's what they're requesting. So we're going to postpone the question of who's paying for this until a later date, but I want to have a motion to propose that we will in principle have 3 speed humps put on Kahukai. So let's have a discussion on that motion.
Robert, could you clarify the motion? I'm
Motion.
not quite sure what you included in the motion and what you excluded from the motion.
Okay, so what I included in the motion is that we agree that to go forward on 3 speed humps as defined in the proposal being created on Kahukai. And what we're tabling in a sense on the motion is the part about who's paying for that, because we don't have a cost estimate, and we cannot make that decision right now. But I want to at least.
What do you mean by we go ahead? Who's the we you're referring to?
Well, I'm saying that the board is allowing the establishment of 3 speed humps. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all. Okay.
Robert, can I make an amendment to your motion, or we have to second it first? I can second it.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
I'd like to add to that motion that we approve the application to install speed humps, and we approve the signatures on the petition process.
Okay,
that
all
they
right,
made, and that the numbers met our approval. And
okay.
so
Well,
I'll add that.
that was implicit with what I was saying, but if you want to
Right.
specify that, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so again, just for clarification, we're approving the proposal and we're approving the placement on the map that was supplied to us. And we're, as Alice said, we're also tacitly saying that the membership approval process was met. And that's as far as our motion's going this evening.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Okay, any other points of discussion? Okay, I'd like to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Alice, why don't you call off the people and then find out if they're for or against?
Okay. Robert Golden.
For?
Okay. Andy Andrews.
Yes, for the motion.
Patty Hatsistabarakis.
For the motion?
Philip Denny.
Yes, I approve the motion.
Alice Lindahl, I approve the motion. The
Okay.
motion passes 5-0, and we have approved having speed humps on the road because they have satisfied the conditions.
Thank you, Alice. Moving on, Andy Andrews has a number of points, issues to bring forward. Andy, it's all yours.
Yeah, thank you. So the first subject I'm going to discuss is the update and of the LCA truck. All of the members of the board have received a write-up about the current situation, but for the sake of the membership, I'm going to read verbatim from the document that was submitted to the board so that nothing that went to the board isn't heard very clearly by the membership. In mid-September, our LCA maintenance manager, Michael Jaunillo, reported that the LCA-owned pickup truck may have transmission problems. We scheduled a $185 diagnostic appointment with Transmission Technologies. The truck was towed to the shop, and they reported that extensive repairs were required. We received back from them an estimated cost of $4,912.43, and the board received a copy of that estimate. A decision was made to obtain a second estimate from Orchid Isle Ford dealership. The vehicle was towed to them. They came back with an estimate for the repairs of $5,087.60. However, they further declined to perform the work, as they said that the truck was too old for them to work on. They weren't sure that they could get the parts that they needed. But because of that, they also generously elected to waive the $145 diagnostic charge. The truck in question, owned by the LCA, is a 2006 Ford F-150 two-wheel drive. It has, at this time, it has approximately 92,000 miles on it. The truck was purchased on July 25th, 2018 for $6,000 cash. At that time, the truck had 59,898 miles on it. The previous owned LCA vehicle that it replaced is a 2003 Mazda pickup. The Mazda pickup, when the new truck was bought, it was given at no cost to our office employee, Kim Falsetta, by the LCA treasurer at that time. The Mazda was operable, although it did require a few repairs. A fuel pump replacement was done, but that Mazda is still being driven to this day by Kim. Michael Jaunillo told me that the reason the truck was replaced was that it was a 15-year-old truck, but inexplicably it was replaced with a 12-year-old truck. Again, the truck was paid $6,000 cash, out of the cell tower fund. The truck was purchased from an LCA member. We're unable to find any receipt or invoice or any record of the sale, but it did take place on the day of an annual meeting. So what we did on the last two truck purchases was in about 2003, the LCA bought a brand new truck. It was a Mazda. It was bought by Al Detweiler mostly. At that time, he served on as the president of the board, and I've had several conversations with Al about it. In his memory, we paid something between $12,000 and $13,000 for that truck. Of course, we paid cash for it, and that truck lasted 15 years. It did have some repairs done to it, but I can't find any record of any major repairs that were done to it. Again, it was a running vehicle, but we chose to replace the truck with a used vehicle with about 58,000 miles on it that we paid $6,000 cash for. Sadly, that vehicle only lasted about 20 months before it's had this apparently catastrophic transmission failure. The Blue Book value of the current Ford truck, as probably many of you know, Blue Book values have a range depending on how you dispose of it, but it currently has a trade-in value of between $3,458 and $4,847. So therefore, the transmission repair would actually exceed the current value of the vehicle. So I've submitted some information on the purchase of vehicles to the board. So what I'd like to do is open discussion on moving forward. At this point in time right now, we're renting a vehicle from Enterprise Rental. Our LCA vehicle insurance policy unfortunately doesn't cover temporary use vehicles like a rental, so we're covering it with the insurance through Enterprise, and it's costing us around $2,000 a month to have that vehicle. So obviously, we'd like to get that vehicle replaced as quickly as possible with a replacement vehicle. And but I'd like to open it to the board for a discussion. The research I've done on new vehicles, I've had many conversations with Michael Howney about it. Michael actually would prefer to have a smaller pickup. He said that the larger Ford F-150 didn't prove to be as useful a vehicle to him as the smaller Mazda, because he has to spend a fair amount of time pulling off to the side of the road to spray Roundup and do the other roadside work that he does. So he said he'd actually rather have a smaller vehicle again. So the vehicle that I did some research on after researching smaller vehicles, apparently the Ford Ranger is a pretty well rated small pickup. They standardly come with a 5-year powertrain warranty and a 3-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, although that can be extended through the Ford Motor Company as an extended warranty. The prices that I'm finding, the trucks on this island were very expensive. They were $3,000 to $5,000 over the manufacturer's suggested price. But in speaking with dealerships on Maui and on Oahu, and on the mainland, actually in California as well, I'm finding that the dealerships on the other two islands are willing to sell significantly below manufacturer's suggested price. So if we were to move forward with a new Ford Ranger, the final price, depending on the model, and some other minor variations would, and obviously tax and dock fees and other things, would run certainly in excess of $25,000, but less than $30,000. So for discussion is, first, should we move forward with should we pursue used vehicles to get quotes? And secondly, discussion of that dollar amount as an expenditure. So I open it for just, there's no motion at this time, just simply discussion by the board.
Andy, thank you very much for doing all of that legwork. I really appreciate that.
You bet, thanks. Phil or Robert or Alice, any comments on your thoughts? Okay.
Can you hear me, Andy? This is Phil Denny.
I can now, yes, thank you.
One of the options you didn't mention was repairing the truck that we have. I talked to Michael recently this week, and he tells me that very clearly that is his desire is to fix the truck that we have rather than spend big bucks on a new truck. He told me that in his opinion, the truck that we have is still in good condition other than the unfortunate transmission failure. And that it probably, at least in his opinion, and I think mine as well, makes more sense to fix the truck that we have and continue to use it through its continued useful life, which hopefully would be another number of years. So I think that that's an option we ought to consider.
Okay, thanks.
Patty's facial expressions are unbelievable.
Robert, are you speaking?
All right, there. So,
Would you start over, please?
yeah, so I'm saying I'm concerned about putting good money into pouring it into a bad situation. Andy, how much would it cost to repair the transmission?
Well, the only quote that we got that we could use came from Transmission Technologies, $4,912.43.
Right. So for me, it sounds illogical to pay $4,000 into a vehicle that, in terms of its book value, is worth half that amount. I don't think that's right.
Probably 80% of that amount.
All right. Okay. I think that's not prudent, and I understand it is a bigger ticket item, but we could amortize that over a period of years, and that a new vehicle would last, you know, at least 15 years, if not more. And I think we get better use, better value for our investment buying a new truck than the very, very risky situation of spending over $4,000 into a truck that's already 15 years old, if approximately 15 years old. So if it was my situation, I would go out to buy the new truck. That's my opinion. Okay.
This is Phil Denny again.
Patty or Alice, either of you have any thoughts?
Well, I yield to people who know a lot more about vehicles, and I've never looked at that vehicle. All I know is the used cars my husband and I bought, we've always been very disappointed because they haven't been, you know, we've discovered later they hadn't been treated well. And so we've always bought new vehicles and made them last a long time. If this car lasts 15 years, that would be a cost of $2,000 per year to own that.
So if the new transmission lasts another 2 years, then we've gotten our money's worth out of it and saved some money over time. And I would also point out that any vehicle that you buy, the moment you drive it off the showroom lot, it becomes a used vehicle. So the real question is, it doesn't seem to me have anything to do with the book value. I think we ought to get it to the book value of 0 and use it for another 2, 3, 4, or even 5 years with a transmission. In fact, I think it might be prudent to look for a used transmission and repair it that way. I think we could save some money.
Okay, Patty, do you have any comment?
Yeah, no, I just I can echo Alice what she said. I defer to people who know more about cars than I. In my personal experience, I have both purchased new vehicles and used vehicles. I can tell you, when we moved here back in 2012, finding a solid used vehicle that wasn't in really bad shape was pretty difficult. And I like the idea of having a warranty on the new vehicle. So I'm not quite sure which way to go on this one, to be honest.
Okay, so that's the information I have. It's costing us quite a lot of money to do the rental. The transmission shop told us that if we were to go ahead with the repairs, that it would tie the vehicle up, they felt, for probably 5 weeks while they have to send the transmission to Oahu, apparently, for the for part of the repair. So we would incur the rental for a fair amount longer, 5 to 6 weeks. So
that adds to the cost.
Yeah, I tend to feel similarly to Robert. I feel that actually the fiscally prudent thing to do would be to set the LCA up with a dependable vehicle under warranty that would last for many years into the future. So I would definitely fall out on the side of purchasing the LCA, a new vehicle, just like was done in 2003, and gave us 15 years.
Right.
Actually, the vehicle still runs.
Right. So actually, I'd like to build on that point. I think we made a mistake. I think the board made a mistake by surrendering that vehicle that was doing very well and exchanging it for a used vehicle, which only gave us a 2-year shelf life from it. And I don't again want to put our good money after bad. My experience is, let's buy an appropriate truck, new truck with warranty, that will service us and that we'll own from the get-go, and that we can count on and that will be reliable. And I have an expression, cheap is cheap. And I think initially spending less money in the beginning to keep a truck, in fact, in the end will cost us more money. So that's why I moved for purchasing a new appropriately sized truck.
Okay, well, why don't we handle it this way for the moment? I make a motion that the board allocate the funds for the purchase of a new vehicle, not to exceed $30,000. We will certainly need to do a little bit more work as to the availability of vehicles, and then if we allocate the funding for it, the board can move forward. But rather than choosing a particular vehicle right now or a particular dealership, why don't we stay away from that decision right now? I'll do some more legwork on what our options are, and the board can take a look at those options and then make a final decision. If we decide a different decision is a better decision, we can certainly reverse our allocation of the funding. So I'll make a motion for the allocation of that money and asking for a second and a vote, please.
All right. So I appreciate that this is a significant amount of money we might be spending, and I'm open to hearing from the membership about this issue, just to get your input on this. So I see two members have their hand raised. So if you just want to briefly state your opinion about this issue, that would be fine. So first is Jay.
Okay, vehicles are like a chain. When you break a link in the chain and you replace that link, you have a nice new link, but every other link in the chain is old and tired. You got to look at it as a new transmission, and this thing is just the way to get to the next breakdown, be it fuel pump, be it radiator, heater core, who knows what with the engine. It's a Ford.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. Next is Jim Penny.
Oh, well, just with regard to Jay's latest comment, if it's a Ford and that's bad, we should be looking at something other than a Ford, perhaps. My quick comment is, and I didn't write it completely down, but I think Andy gave us how many miles was on the truck, the other truck when it was acquired. Now it's 92. It's somewhere in the range of about 40,000 miles in 2 years. I'd like to know how a truck that is a Leilani Estates truck, I mean, we're on an island here, can get 40,000 miles. And furthermore, if we're putting on 20,000 miles a year on a truck and expect to get 15 years out of it, just quick math tells me that that's 300,000 miles that we're talking about putting into a new vehicle.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Next, thank you. Lee, you're next.
Yeah, what are you going to do with the old one? If you buy a new one, what's going to happen with the bad one?
What was done with the truck that it replaced is it was given without discussion to an LCA employee. There was no vote or discussion or anything that happened on it. It was simply gifted to an LCA employee.
Andy, what would happen with the current truck? If we replace the current truck, what would happen with the current truck that we're replacing with the?
Yeah, we'd have to decide.
Okay.
Well, what's that decision? Before you make a decision, you need to find out what's going to happen with the old one. I'd be interested in
$2,000 trade-in.
If you want to make a comment again, please raise your hand. Please don't speak out. Thank you. Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd be interested in the old one.
Okay, well, thank you. You know, I assume we try to sell it. That's what we do. Okay, anyone else wanting to speak on this issue before we move on to the next one?
Robert, this is Phil Denny. I want to explore the option of financing the truck instead of spending $30,000 in cash.
Phil, a corporation like the LCA, it's a very challenging process to go into assigned loan situation. We would have to pledge the assets of the Leilani Community Association as collateral for the loan, and I think the ramifications of that. My feeling is that the very reason that the LCA maintains a fund, which we've in the past called a reserve fund, even though it actually isn't a reserve fund, it's just simply savings. But the savings that have been created over the years of the LCA, the very function of those savings is to meet the needs of the community.
Mark,
what would be the advantage of financing?
I think it preserves our cash, which is, I think, useful in our situation. We certainly have enough assets to encumber some of them to cover that cost.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can, I'm not sure legally we can. I've done some looking at that, and I might be wrong, but it appears as
You are
quite a,
wrong.
I'm sorry, who's speaking? Who just spoke up?
Now, but I don't think, if again, if you want to make a comment, please raise your hand. Mark Honio is next, okay? Please don't talk out. Okay, all right. Andy, we're gonna go on. All right.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Mark, you're next.
Mark has to unmute.
I just did that. Mark, go ahead.
Yes, I personally feel that we should just buy a brand new transmission and drop the old one and put the new one in. Yeah, you can do that. But if, because I know there's a lot more issues Leilani faces that are much more important than a brand new truck. A brand new truck is fine. For now, I think we can deal with a brand new transmission. Buy one new transmission, slap it in, on your way. Yeah. There's a lot of transmission, especially even throughout the Lower Puna area that we can look at. That's my thought. Anyway,
Thank you, Mark.
thank you.
Anyone else, please raise your hand in the participant window. Okay, Andy, you want to go on to the next topic?
No, there's a motion on the floor.
Okay, so Andy, restate the motion.
That we create an allocation for the purchase of a new vehicle not to exceed $30,000. And then we do some more legwork, especially based upon some of the information that we got in discussion tonight, but that we create the allocation for it.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Point of order, Robert, this is Phil. No second is required in a small board according to Robert's rules.
Okay, thank you. Let's open up for discussion. I've already stated my support of this motion.
When you say discussion, you mean discussion within the board now?
Yes, discussion within the board, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so I already stated my support of this motion. Alice, Patty, and Phil.
I think it's a good idea to allocate the funds, but I would like to explore the other options a little bit more. So I don't know if just the wording of the motion to exclude the word new, maybe we can just include vehicle so that it keeps our options a little bit more open until we do a little bit more legwork.
Okay. Okay, so just, and so based on that suggestion, which I like, Patty, I'll simply remove the word new from the motion and just say it is the allocation for a vehicle. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Alice, do you want to add anything?
Well, my experience is that a lot of people really mistreat vehicles in Hawaii, and Hawaii is hard, especially if they live near the coast. And we've had 3 in a row of really ones that looked really good to all the people they took them to. So I'm just, I must say, I'm somewhat skeptical about, depending on the number of miles, of course. And I've noticed when you're buying used cars here, the ones that are just a couple years old are really almost as expensive as the ones in the lot. That's sedans. Shows you my limited range of understanding of vehicles.
Okay, thank you. Phil?
So Robert, you want to call the motion?
Well, I just want to make sure everyone gets their opinions raised. Phil, do you want to say anything else?
No, I think I made my opinion clear, Robert. I think that we should fix the truck we have and save our money.
Okay, right. So I see 2 hands raised here by Jay and Jim. All I ask you is, are you going to say something different than you've already said before? I mean, if you have nothing different, it's something different, Jay?
My case, yes.
Okay, what? Jim?
What Alice said, I think is true. I know when I acquired our truck, I went and buying a used truck here on the island is a crapshoot at best, very risky. And so the motion is to investigate a new one or repair the existing on which we have a history. But that could exclude getting or trying to acquire a used one. So I just want to say there's three options, and I think we can consider two: repair or replace, but not replace with new, not go acquire another used truck.
Okay. Thank you. And Jay, what new points do you want to make?
The fourth option, lease, either from a dealer or I'll buy it and lease it to Leilani.
Thank you. All right, so thank you. All right, so I want to call the questions again. Am I correct, Andy? We're just doing this to basically say we're allocating this money. We're not actually spending the money. We're going to just do some more inquiry before we make a final decision.
Yeah, as part of our newly passed procurement policy, we need a board approval.
Right.
For any of these options.
Right.
They will all exceed the $2,500 ceiling without board approval. So anyway, I'd like to get the main thing I'd like to do is to get this vehicle replaced so that we don't keep eating up LCA funds on the rental.
Okay. Thank you.
Andy,
Okay, so
can you include the lease, investigating the lease option and let us know what the costs of
Absolutely.
that are? I'm interested in that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. So Andy, you want to restate the motion?
Yeah, so it's for the allocation of up to and including $30,000 for the research to either repair or replace the LCA truck.
Thank you. Alice, do you want to call a roll for votes?
All in favor say yes. Andy Andrews,
Yes.
Robert Golden,
Yes.
Patty Hatzis-Stavrakis,
Yes.
Phil Denny.
Excuse me, Alice, but I'm a little confused about the motion. May I ask for a clarification? I
Sure.
am willing to support allocating money for the vehicle repair, but not for its replacement. So as far as I can tell, I'm going to vote no on this motion.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see here, Alice Lindahl, and I vote yes. So the motion passes 4-1 to send Andy back to the table to get to work on finding out more about this truck.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next agenda item is an update on our worker at the community center, Greg Armstrong. So as many of you know, we were audited by our workers' comp. We were asked to do an audit by our workers' comp policy, and in speaking with our insurance provider, we were informed that we were outside of the boundaries of being able to define that position as a contract employee. So we have now made the transition to that being a salaried position. So the actual monthly expenditure has changed a little bit. It's gone up a little bit because we're now providing insurance and the standard withholding. The goal was to have it so that the $300 contract amount that we were paying would be the take-home pay for the position. Kim is still juggling it a little bit. She told me she overpaid it a little bit the first time she did it, but by very little. And but she'll get the amount juggled. So the position has transitioned to that of salaried employee. The advantage to the LCA obviously is that that position is now covered by workers' comp insurance, so that if an injury or accident were to take place, we would not end up in a position of having an employee not covered by workers' comp. So that transition has taken place. The third subject that we're going to be discussing under my agenda items is the subject of a reserve study. So I sent a letter to the board, and again, reading it pretty much verbatim to the board. As the next step in upholding our fiduciary responsibilities, attached find 3 qualified and vetted reserve study proposals for your review. It is my intention to, with your guidance and permission, select one of these firms to produce an LCA reserve study, which will be the first for the LCA in at least decades. I can't find any record of there ever having been one, but if there was, it predates the research I've been able to do. A reserve study is considered by most qualified financial advisors to be a necessary and requisite step to ascertaining required income. And then given that income created by the reserve study, this information will then permit a well-founded production of an annual budget, which up until now, we haven't achieved that. The complete absence of any LCA budget within the last minimum of 10 years. The board's operated with no budget at all for the past 10 years. I went through all of the financial records. There was mention, but it didn't exist. But a budget, the creation of a budget requires the necessary financial groundwork to yield meaningful and usable results. So I plan to open this discussion to select a reserve study firm with the board at the November Board of Directors meeting. Please take some of your already busy time to review these proposals. So I sent to the other board members 3 reserve study proposals that I got from 3 companies. One of them is Association Reserves. It's a firm based out of Honolulu, a very well-respected firm that has done over 45,000 reserve studies around the United States. There was a second that went out from a company named McCaffrey Reserve Consulting. They've been in existence 15 years, and they've done over 10,000 reserve studies. And the third was the Hawaii Inspection Group, which is on Maui, actually. And they are, once again, a very established and reputable firm. In round numbers, the 2 of them came back with a cost estimate of slightly under $3,000. And the third one, which was the first name I mentioned, came back with an approximate cost of $6,000 for the reserve studies. I have a recommendation based on the research I've done, but I prefer to throw it open to the board. I know that you've all had these for a month or so now, or a few weeks anyway. And I was wondering if any of you had any questions about it or suggestions. So just open for just board discussion before any motion is made.
So Andy, in discussing this, I spoke to you, you said that one of them is actually going to be, I think the McCaffrey firm is going to be here on Big Island in the month of December, did you say?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
Mr. McCaffrey himself, he has 3 other reserve studies he's going to be doing in the Hawaiian Islands. I don't think they're all on this island, but in any case, he indicated to me that he'll be flying here. He's based out of California, but he's going to be flying here in early December to do the other 3 reserve studies. The other firm said they could do it, but they felt that it would probably be after the first of the year that they'd get to it because of their schedules.
So given that cost, that it's half the other the high estimate, and that he'll be here in December, I would vote for him.
For McCaffrey.
Right.
Okay. Patty or Alice or Phil, any of you have any feedback on this?
Yeah, thanks again for doing all of that research. I agree. I think the McCaffrey, when I read through their proposal and took a look at their sample reports, I was really impressed for what I saw. So, and I like the fact that it could be done quickly because I know this is a hot topic for us right now. So.
It'll allow us to get onto the budget discussion sooner as well.
Right. Phil, you have any comment?
Phil, you're muted. Phil, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree that the McCaffrey proposal probably ought to be the one we pursue. So I agree. Thank you, Andy, for doing that.
You bet.
Yeah.
For the sake of the membership, just to give a very quick, what a reserve study does is it makes a study of all of the fixed assets above a certain dollar amount, typically $300, that belong to an organization. It makes a educated projection of the projected life of those assets, and also of the projected replacement cost at the end of that projected life. And so what it does is it then uses that input to determine a due structure. So what it says is that in order to reach each of those hallmarks for the replacement of infrastructure as it ages out, that a particular due structure will ensure, to the best of projections abilities, that when the time comes to replace those assets, like a truck, for example, that the money will be there to do it, and it will already be allocated for it. And so that, for those of you who don't know what a reserve study is, that's what it is. So given the comments by the board, I would like to make a motion to accept the estimate of, it's actually $2,999 from McCaffrey Reserve Consulting to hire them to do a reserve study for us. Part of the deal that we would buy from them is that they would do updated reserve studies in the years that follow for a significantly lower cost, $450. So if we decided, for example, to do a reserve study either annually or semi-annually, biannually. Yeah, thank you. Biannually, the cost moving forward, unless there was some significant change, would be a much reduced cost. So anyway, I make that motion to accept the McCaffrey proposal.
Thank you, Andy. We'll call the question. Alice, do you want to call the roll?
Yes, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes. Robert Golden,
Yes.
Andy Andrews,
Yes.
Patty Hatzis-Tavarakis,
Yes.
Philip Denny,
Yes.
and Alice Lindahl, yes. The motion passes 5-1. We will carry on with hiring the.
Alice, 5-0.
Sorry, late in the day. 5-0, and we will be hiring the McCaffrey Group to do our research
Thank
study.
you.
Thank you.
And Andy, I just want to commend you for your work. I mean, it's in all these three issues, your diligence, your attention to detail, your thoroughness, and professionalism. I believe is deeply respected by all the board members and the community.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
And with that said, that's everything your treasurer has for you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Okay, moving on, Phil Denny, you're up.
Thank you. My bladder is full, so I'm going to go quickly. The first issue is, as you know, I've been on a leave of absence to explore whether or not I have a conflict of interest. I wanted to announce that the leave of absence has ended. I have determined with consultation from a number of sources that I do not have any conflict of interest, excepting issues regarding the so-called driveway aprons. I will commit to recusing myself from any discussion or votes regarding driveways, but I will otherwise participate fully in any and all LCA board business. Second thing that I have is the infrastructure report. As per the board's direction at the last meeting, the children's play area stump hazard has been mitigated by the installation of cinder and tropical plants. I purchased and had delivered a half load of black cinder, and Michael Jaunillo graciously moved it with the LCA tractor to cover the stumps. A number of volunteers raked, contoured, and planted about 150 plants. Michael Jaunillo has agreed to remove the temporary fence once the planting has become established. The total cost of the cinder and the project was $250. And I want to point out that approximately 8 cubic yards of cinder remains stockpiled for future LCA use. So that's that. I'd like to thank particularly Michael Jaunillo for graciously helping us. I'd like to thank Jim Penny for helping make this happen. I'd like to also thank Alapai Tropical Gardens and the Lazy K laborers. We all got very wet, but I'm happy to report that I think everyone will be pleased with the results. The second item in the infrastructure report is when we did this project, I had a chance to spend some time with our maintenance manager. And I'm happy to report that he thinks things are going pretty well. Our equipment is in pretty good shape, except for the truck that we've discussed. He's very happy with the new mower, which is working well. And we discussed an upcoming project of painting the water storage tank in the park. As you may know, the tank is there for fire suppression and it needs a coat of paint. So we talked about that. Otherwise, the infrastructure seems to be being maintained reasonably well, given the circumstances. I have to commiserate with Michael, given the kind of weather we've had here recently, how hard it is to get out on the equipment. So again, kudos to Michael. The next issue that I wanted to discuss was the hazard tree issue. I thank Alice for bringing that up. The more I look into it, the more of a problem it is. It's a major problem. In looking around, I find that most of the problem trees are on private property. And this creates some issues as to how to deal with them. And I think we as the board, what we should do initially is to develop a policy to deal with property owners who have hazard trees on their property. I think that we need to consult with, and I've started that process already with the Big Island Invasive Species Committee. And thank you to Lincoln Ashita for pointing out that we might be able to use Hawaii County Code Chapter 20, particularly for trees that are an immediate risk for health and safety. So these are things that I will begin to explore and hopefully take some action on fairly quickly. I see the biggest problem right now is identifying which trees deserve our attention first. And my proposal would be to announce a contest in which anybody that identifies a problem tree in Leilani that meets our top 10 list will be eligible for a drawing for quote, valuable, unquote, prizes, the nature of which remains to be determined. But I think it might add a little bit of fun and perhaps get people interested in helping us identify these trees. I would like to make that announcement within the next few days on Facebook, Nextdoor, and the LCA website. And since I'm not on social media myself, I'm reaching out to get some help with that, but hopefully that will be taken care of soon. I think that of immediate concern, and I would ask the board members who are not aware of this situation to maybe go by and take a look. I'm talking about the Mauka side of South Pomokai. There are a number of very large, very dead albesias overhanging the roadway that are shedding large branches as we speak. I think this is an extremely dangerous situation, and I think that it puts our association at some risk to not deal with this. I think the immediate solution is to perhaps move some of the barriers that we have from lower Leilani to cordon off the area underneath this.
Phil, you're frozen.
It's not moving.
No,
20.
he'll come back.
So I would like to make a motion, if I could please, that the LCA Board of Directors install some traffic barricades under this dangerous tree on South Pomokai as soon as possible. Is there any discussion of that?
Yes. First of all, Phil, I just want to thank you for the work you've done, both in terms of the landscaping work that you did around the stump, and just thank you for that work and for the initial work on the trees. I have a couple of questions for you.
Yep.
So have the owners, or I was wondering, these trees are on private property, correct?
Yes, as far as I can tell. I haven't measured, but they appear to be.
Right. So to what extent for us to contact the owners of these properties, because they're the ones who are liable, since the tree is on their property, they're the ones who are liable.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
true.
I was going to ask the same question.
And you just wait 1
I
second.
was just going to ask you, Phil, has identified the owner?
No.
Okay.
But the issue is, as far as I can see, is this is an immediate health and safety.
Right. Well, I'm sure, I'm just guessing no one in the board is against putting barricades up for, I'm sure we're all are going to vote for that. But in terms of dealing with this tree, the way you describe it, sounds like an impending disaster. And that the owner...
Go take a look, see what you think. And I certainly think that we should identify the owner and go through that process. But in the meantime, this may be a prime situation to utilize Hawaii County Code Chapter 20, which addresses immediate health and safety concerns. It allows the county to mitigate the risk and either bill the owner or lien the property.
Okay.
I have two questions of Mr. Denny. The first one is, could you repeat again exactly where this tree is? North, south, Pomakai, which one?
South Pomakai, Mauka side, about halfway down the block.
Okay. That is the jungliest spot in all of Leilani. My
No,
second question is, by barricades, do you mean like traffic?
Yes.
Do you mean traffic cones, like the big orange cones to keep
Well,
people,
I
not
think
a, you know, cement barricade?
I think the traffic cones would grow legs fairly quickly. And what I'm thinking is the kind of barricades that are on Moku and other streets. The yellow painted, looks like a big sawhorse.
Oh, okay. That sounds better.
So, you know, I'm thinking 2 or perhaps even 3 of those would at least show that we've taken this seriously and hopefully prevent something bad. So,
Phil, those barricades were built by community volunteers. Have you done any research on where we might be able to buy them or get more
my thought is to use the ones we already have and remove them from Moku and Kupono and wherever else they are. I think the need on South Pomakai is much greater than the issue about looky-loos and tourists and so forth. I think that's pretty much resolved, but that's my opinion. So,
well, those don't belong to the LCA. They were put there by individuals. So I don't disagree with you, but I think we'll have to do the legwork to find out who considers themselves the owners of those barricades. Okay. Phil, I have a more concerning question. Sure. In your opening remark, you said that most of the trees were on private property. I'm very concerned that if there are trees on LCA property that would fall under this description. Have you actually identified any LCA trees? Because that is a big deal. That would be
no, I haven't.
Absolute liability for the LCA.
No, I haven't identified any, but again, I haven't gone out with a tape measure and look. What I see primarily, as I said, is I see primarily trees that are on private property whose branches overhang the LCA road easement. Now, I can't say for sure that there aren't some trees that are at least partially on LCA property, but I don't know that at this point.
I think Michael would know that. Michael
Yes.
does all the mowing, obviously, and I think he'd be very. And then my other question is, what kind of response did we set up the new email for people to report trees? How many community responses did we get?
I've had 2. And interestingly enough, both were about the same tree on South Pomakai. So, but what I'm hopeful for, Andy, is that that by publicizing this as widely as we can, and again, perhaps with a bit of a gimmick about a contest and valuable prizes and so forth, we might be able to get some more community involvement.
Yeah, I like it. And then my third question is, have you gotten any feeling about how long it takes the county to act on that, where they take the trees out? I do know the county is not the speediest at getting things done. Did Lincoln give you any indication of, or did the county, when you spoke to the county, did they give you any indication of what the timeline would be to take out trees?
No, and again, my preliminary information about Hawaii County Code Chapter 20 came from the email from Lincoln Ishida. So, and again, it's like anything else in our county in East Hawaii, it would not surprise any of us to find that it might be a slog to get this done. The county's got a lot on its plate, and I suspect that trees is not high on the list. So,
Okay, thanks.
So Phil, I haven't seen the tree, so I'm just taking your word for it in terms of it's in danger. And I'm very responsive to that. And I think given the low traffic currently now on Kapono and Moku, given that there is not a lot of tourists coming in right now, that maybe we actually take those 2 sore horses and move them, and we could have Michael bring them, if the board agrees with this, bring them just to mark out that area as a warning to go around that tree. Is that what
I
you think?
think that's a great idea, Robert, but as Andy points out, the LCA does not own those pieces. I think we'd have to get permission from whoever owns them to move them.
Is there really an owner? I thought that, I still remember when they were created. And I think that one of the people was actually on the call, a couple of people might be on the call. I don't know if they're actually owned by any individuals. So if anyone here is on this call, knows the owner of those those barricades, I thought in fact that that LCA monies were used to pay for the wood and people contribute their labor to make them. I thought that was my recollection of what happened. And Jay's nodding his head yes. So, I mean, just given the equivalence here,
Who's that doing?
So you want to make a motion and then we can discuss it?
Yes, I did make a motion, Robert. It's on the floor. And the motion is that the LCA traffic barricades around the hazard tree on South.
All right, okay, good. All right, is there any discussion, Alice, Andy, or Patty on that? I'm for the motion.
Nope, great idea.
Okay, Alice, you want to call the roll?
Alrighty. Answer yes if you approve the motion. Robert Golden,
Yes.
Andy Andrews,
Yes.
Patty Hatzis-Varakis,
Yes.
Philip Denny,
Yes.
Alice Lindahl. I vote yes. So the motion passes 5-0. The motion is adopted to put barricades around that big tree site.
So to move forward, I think it's really urgent for us to find out the owner of the property. And I believe, I gather there's no mailbox there because it's just vacant land. Am I correct, Phil, about that?
I believe you're correct, Robert.
So I would sort of call upon Jay, who's the maven of the maps here in Leilani. Jay, could you help us in identifying whose property that is so we can contact them? Yes, okay, thank you very much. Okay, and if we could get that done this week and actually contact that person about the situation, about the impending problems there. Okay. I have one more suggestion, Phil. You might want to actually, just take pictures of what you see as the various culprits around in terms of the trees and post them on Leilani board just to alert people. That's one way of communicating this information.
Yes. Okay. I have a picture after the meeting. I'll send it to the rest of the board.
Okay. Or any other trees that people could take pictures of trees and identify their location.
Yes,
So,
my plan, Robert, is when I call for people to help us identify these trees, to ask that people give us a street address, location, a TMK number if known, an owner's name if known, identifying landmarks, et cetera, so we can help find it.
very good, very good. So Jay has his hand raised. I assume he wants to talk to this issue. Jay? You're muted.
Jay, you're muted.
There we go. Yeah, all I need is the power pole number, which side of the street the lot is on relative to the pole, same side or opposite side, and whether it's toward Leilani Avenue or toward Malama Avenue, or in the case of it's on the other side, whether it's Leilani or Kahukai. Because There's a pole every other lot. And from that description, relative to the pole number, I have the owner's name, TMK, block and lot, everything. And I suspect, I haven't been there lately to look, that offending trees are probably on the property adjacent to Carolyn Cash, who had house damage during a cell. And I don't know if she's ever gotten any compensation from the property owner who was totally uncooperative. So we may have our work ahead of us, and there's where the county comes in.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Thank you. All right, Phil, again, thank you for that work. Do you want to have anything else to report?
No, not at this point. I have a piece under new business about the election.
Okay, thank you very much. Alice, you're up.
Thank you. I have a report on a project we started on August 28th, and that was the date in which the board passed a policy to put to leave the barricades on the lava-covered roads and prohibit grading of roads, in which will give us an opportunity to study the likely consequences of opening the road and finding out what the community thinks, and gather all the information we can to help us make a better decision about opening the roads. And fortunately, a very wonderful tool for doing this, or for helping us, was Patty's Roads poll, we called it. 89 people signed in, which is far more than we can ever get into a meeting usually. And people gave us some great ideas and a lot of insight about the situation and how it might impact them, and also lots of good suggestions. And I thought that I would put together a resource study based basically on what the members want. So this is a follow-up, and also a request for you to read the results that I have come up with so far and make further suggestions. And that's why Robert thoughtfully sent this document to you guys today. And the name of the document, it's on the top, it's kind of long and wordy, and it says Eruption Area Management Fact-Finding for Leilani Community. And what I've done is divided the input from the community on the poll into 3 areas. First of all, what the goal should be. Second of all, what people are recommending to address those goals. And third, an estimate of any possible expenses that might be aspects of the practical issues regarding ensuring everybody's peace and tranquility, because we're very aware of, after the eruption, a lot of really disruptive and awful activity out on the lava field. It was very tough on the people who lived there, right at the edge of the lava. And I'm pretty sure every single person who lives at the edge of the lava must have answered the poll, because I have 35 responses from them, and they are extremely positive. That is, that they are hoping that we do not open the roads because they don't want to revisit an awful situation where there's lots of people out there and lots of disruption, and the details of which I've put in this write-up, so I'm not going to read you the whole thing. But unwanted trespassing, breaking in, and basically very disrespectful behavior of the people who lived on the edge. This is something folks are really worried about, and they don't want it. They want to try to prevent it from happening again. And I've hopefully encapsulated their thoughts in this number 2, the recommended policy goals, and the 3, the possible expenses that could accrue to opening the roads. I've also talked to people to give me some ideas on what they think might happen and might need to be cared for. And the special topic is security. If there are suddenly lots of people out on the lava dumping cars or something like that, something that happens a lot in Hawaii, unfortunately, how can we provide a security situation where we're not putting the burden on the residents who live on the very edge of the lava? And also, it's rather clear that everybody on the pole considers that the security situation should definitely not be handled by the residents, and it shouldn't be handled by Neighborhood Watch either, because they're not set up as a security system. And so the LCA board would have to solve that problem. And regarding the third part about the how any expenses would be handled, or how big they would be, I came up with about 7 or 8 possibilities of things that might cost money. And of course, it all depends on if nuisance behavior shows up. But if a road is built, you can't unbuild a road. So we're trying to project ahead. And so you can read about, let's see, how many do I have here? 7 different groups of people that I talked to. Once again, it was largely about the road pull, but we also talked to geologists from the volcano and the University of Hawaii at Hilo. We're consulting with road building companies who can give us estimates of how we can make sure any roads that are built in there are safe, knowing that they will have upkeep expenses as well. And I've talked to the people at the Public Works Department and to get their input on what they would require for a safe road. And I've talked to security companies and trash hauling companies if we need to hire people to take trash out. And one kind of bright spot in all of my research is that when I talked to Mitch Roth about this, he said, you know, we've really been looking for a safe place to view Fissure 8 and the Fissure Group. And by chance, the members of Makame Street, they've talked about this a lot. And they've done some research to identify a place looking at the other side of Fissure 8 from the junction down there where Highway 132 runs into the soon-to-be open Poho Eki Road. And they've been scoping it out, and they want to work with Mitch Roth and Ashley Kierkowitz to talk about a place that will take the pressure off of them for having people wanting to drive and park in front of their homes, and instead watch with comfort and parking, good parking from the other side. So that's my report, and I really want everybody to read it. It's been emailed to everyone on the MailChimp list, but we will also post it on the website, and I'll add it to the minutes. So if you will email me at admin, the usual address, admin at leilaniestates.org, I would really like to have more input on what we've already thought about and what maybe we haven't thought about yet. So that's all I have to say about it.
Alice,
Anybody want?
Yeah, I just like to say, I really want to thank you for that diligent work you've been doing and all the outreach work. It's very thorough, it's thoughtful, and it certainly gives us scope of, you know, in terms of making any changes, what that might mean. So again, just a deep sense of appreciation for that work. Is there any other board member?
The more facts you know, the better.
Exactly. Does any other board member have a comment to make about Alice's report before we move on? Okay, thank you. Okay, I've already covered Patty's point here. It says reminder for nominations. I've given that out. Phil Denny, you're up with new business on election information for 2020-2021. And you have to unmute.
Hey, Robert, may I mention something about, you forgot on the nominations to mention that the nomination form will be posted on the LCA website.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Can you hear me, Robert? I'm unmuted.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I wanted, hang on just a second. First of all, thank you. In response to your email a while back, you stated that because of the ongoing litigation in which 4 board members are involved, that you would like me to take on the project of managing the upcoming 2021 election. And as I responded, I'm happy to take that on, but I think the election ought to be held on the 21st of January as required by our bylaws. So I would like to make a motion, if I may, that we schedule the 2021 election for January 21st, 2021 as required in the bylaws. That the nominations will be due not the 1st of January, but the 1st of December of 2020, and that the ballots, along with candidate statements, be mailed by the 20th of December. And I would like to open that motion for discussion.
Phil, were you aware that the bylaws indicate what day the nominations come in, should be received? And I think it's January 1st. That's on the same. So that's written into the bylaws.
And that contemplates the date of the election as the 21st of January, or is that for the current?
No, it's in the same paragraph as the
okay.
Meeting, and I think it's the 4th Tuesday in January, which is not the 20. Well, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I don't think it's January.
I looked it up. I thought it was the 21st, but you may be right, Alice. I could be wrong about that. But whatever the date is specified in the bylaws is the date that I think that we ought to have our election scheduled. Again, particularly since the whole issue is currently in litigation. So again, my motion would be to schedule the 2021 election for the day specified in the bylaws, which I believe is the 21st of January. And again, I would move that we make every attempt to have the nomination process closed by the 1st of December, and that ballots and statements, candidate statements, be mailed by the 20th of December, giving a little bit more than a month for the elector to respond.
Excuse me. I have a comment following Alice's thought. The duality in the motion, I'm wondering if we could segregate the motion. Alice is correct. The nomination date of January 1st is clearly called out in the bylaws. So in the effort to correct one thing, you're countermanding another thing. And so so you're kind of asking us to vote in contradiction to the bylaws on one level and in support of the bylaws on a different issue.
Yes, Andy, I think, you know, you're probably technically correct, but my point of view is that the bylaws specify the date of the election in January and not March. So as far as I'm concerned, the current date is incorrect. Now, whether we should separate the motions as far as date and when nominations are due, I don't have a problem with that. But again, I think the gist and thrust of my motion is to schedule the election in January as specified. Now, I understand that there may be some issues in getting nominations before that, but I don't see that as insurmountable. I don't think that there's anything in the bylaws that's saying the nominations can't be opened earlier. They just have to be completed by, what do you say, January 1st. So, you know, there are some issues here, but again, I think the overriding thrust of my motion is to have the election scheduled in late January rather than March. So I'll tell you what, let me change my motion and I'll take out the issues about nominations and date the ballot should be sent. We'll just make the motion very simply that the LCA election be scheduled on January 21st as required by the bylaws.
Okay, so Phil, can we discuss this now?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So you've hit upon a major contradiction in the bylaws, a wrinkle that has caused numerous problems. As you're aware, the board has met. The annual meeting has been in March for close to 50 years. And in fact, I'll just show you, and everyone will be able to see this documentation of this. So what you see here is, it comes from 1971.
Robert, can you enlarge
Yeah,
it a little
I'm
bit?
gonna do, yeah, I'm trying to right now. 1 second.
Thanks.
Hold on. You know, I'll read it to you. I know it's, please trust me. I know it's not that very big. Is that a little better, Andy?
A little bit.
Okay, so this is amendment to the bylaws of the Leilani Community Association. By action of the Board of Directors at a meeting held on April 6, 1971, the following amendments to the bylaws were adopted. So I think that says Article 3, Section 1, page 3, annual meeting, revised. The annual meeting of the members of the corporation will be held on the fourth Monday of January to each year. To read, so that revising that, to read, the annual meeting of the members of the corporation shall be held on the fourth Thursday of March of each year. The above amendments to the bylaws were made necessary by the lack of response to the meeting notices and or proxies sent out to all members. It required 4 notices to obtain the necessary votes to elect the members of the board of directors, who then elected the officers of the corporation for the coming year. These amendments are in accordance with Article 16, amendments to the bylaws, page 13. So you are correct, Phil, that you know, the bylaws sort of speak out of 2 mouths. And for 50 years or close to 50 years, the board has been meeting, as we all know, we've been going to these meetings in March. So what I want to suggest to you is if you would withdraw your motion and instead we hold a special meeting of the members to determine what the membership wants for when the meeting to be held in December.
The problem that I see with that, Robert, is there is not enough time to make any impact on 2021's election, unless a members' meeting can be scheduled very quickly. I don't see that as a solution for this coming election. So again, I don't wish to remove my motion. I'd like to call the question.
Robert, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Thank you. So the bylaws require the nominations on January 1, and the meeting date would actually be January 25, not 21. So there'd be 21 days from the receipt of the nominations closing to the election. Does that present an issue?
Yes. Yes. As they are currently written, I think it would be very difficult to get the nomination and get the ballots distributed in time. One of the problems we've had with the previous elections, the last one in particular, is the contention by some that there just wasn't enough time from the time the ballots went out to get enough time to return. So that by shortening that time even more, just exacerbates that problem. So again, I'm not sure I see a great way around it. I think that the election ought to be held on the 25th, you say, Andy?
Yes.
Yes, yes, on the 25th then, and we try and make that work. That's my motion, and I'd like to call the question.
Okay.
And Robert, may I ask you a question?
Ask me?
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing that you read to us, that's part of the LCA records?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Right. So Phil, I just want to apprise you, I want to make sure you understand, and I understand you want to be faithful to the bylaws. I get that. And I think we all do. And the problem here is that unfortunately, there's an apparent contradiction. But meanwhile, the board has called the annual meeting in March. And the reason it's in March, not January, as really stated, was I read out to you in the 1971 bylaw change, because they couldn't get enough responses. So what I'm just trying to suggest, I'm going to do one last time with you, is to have a members meeting, in December, where this could be finally satisfied, and the whole community can weigh in about what their preference is. We all have our particular preference, but right now I cannot vote for your motion, or I'm going to abstain because I don't really know what's best.
Okay.
And so I just ask you to reconsider, to withdraw your motion, and let's move forward, with a members meeting, in December, that will finally resolve this problem. And maybe,
Robert,
in fact,
can I?
let me say one more
Sorry.
way. And maybe, in fact, I'm just saying this hypothetically, maybe we'll have the members meeting, we'll have the annual meeting in February. We don't have to wait till March. But the point is, let's let the members weigh in and get this resolved.
Robert,
Alice is next. Alice?
as our governance person, does this mean that a vote of the members overrides whatever is in the bylaws? That is, we aren't sure, which date is correct, because we don't know enough at this point.
Right.
And so that vote would override the
If we had
necessity to focus on bylaws.
If 2/3 of the members concurred on that at that meeting, and we met as long as we met the quorum, it must be 10%, either through proxies or attendance. 10% of the members as for meeting quorum necessity, and then 2/3 of the members would have to be concurrence of what their wishes were. And if we didn't get the 2/3, then it'll be up to the board to decide. The board would vote then when that meeting would take place. Okay. So Phil, it's your call what you want to do.
No, I'd like to call the motion that's on the floor.
Okay, thank you. Alice, would you please call the roll?
All voting for Phil's motion say yes, and voting no on the Phil's motion, just say no. And I'll start with Robert Golden, President.
So I abstain because I don't believe I have sufficient information to make a decision.
Andy Andrews.
Yeah, I agree with Robert. I don't feel like I'm clear as to which of the two bylaws that are documented are in fact the correct, current, and valid meetings. So without further research available, I also abstain.
Okay. Patty Hadzistafarakis.
I feel that I am going to abstain from this vote because I don't feel that I have sufficient information either. I think we definitely need to do some additional research, and I would really like to get the input of the members on this.
Philip Denny, your
I
vote.
vote yes. I vote yes on the motion.
Alice Lindahl, and I abstain from voting as well. I do not know which in my own mind, and I haven't heard anything that makes any sense as to which date is right. And I would feel really good about having the members decide, and then I would feel good about the decision. So I abstain as well.
So the motion fails due to lack of a majority of the quorum. It does.
Point of
fail.
order, Robert. The motion does not fail.
The motion does, you need a majority of the quorum. One vote does not make a majority. The quorum
Yeah,
here is 5. The chair has decided, Phil, the motion fails.
Each member had a chance to vote yes or no, and they chose not to.
Anyhow, your motion is dead now, Phil. What I want to, I'm going to make, the chair has the right the president has the right to call a special meeting of the community in December, in which this decision will be made, hopefully by the community. Thank you.
Robert, do you know, have you decided what date that meeting will be?
It will probably be, the second Thursday of December. But I'll know more specifically because a lot of work has to be done to make this meeting happen.
Thank you.
Is that at the board meeting in December, Robert?
We're going to have a special meeting of the community to decide this question, about when the annual meeting will take place.
So Robert, this will be a special members meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is this the annual members meeting?
No, it's not the annual members meeting. It's not the annual members.
It's a special meeting, right, Robert?
It's a special meeting to decide this question about the election. Okay, thank you. I think we're at the end. And I just want to thank everybody for participating. It's really
Robert, there's one more agenda item.
There is? What am I missing here?
It's a short one.
Oh yes, Alice. I always try to leave you off. I apologize, Alice.
I'll quit putting myself at the end then.
Okay.
I'm in charge of the newsletter this year, and I've done lots of new newsletters in my biology department, so I'm excited about doing this. And I've decided that I would love to have a newsletter read of contributions of people in Leilani estates, letting us know about what is happening on their neighborhood. I know my neighborhood well, and you guys probably do too, but we don't know each other's neighborhoods. And if I was on the mainland thinking about moving here or had a lot that I lost, I would love to hear what people are thinking and people are doing. So I'm making a call to you writers out there who want to submit an article about anything to do with your neighborhood. It can be a special person who's got a special project, something that happened in your neighborhood, an artist who's doing some really cool stuff. It can be anything. And I'm writing the one for my neighborhood, and I'm going to talk about this wonderful bird that comes back every winter from Alaska to join us here in Leilani. So that's an example of how small the subject can be. So if you all can email me at the usual admin address, I'm going to send out a message hoping that you can get something to me by the 15th of December so we can put it together for a January newsletter. And that's it. And
Thanks,
thank you.
I'll take all comers.
Okay, so Alice, thank you for that volunteer effort. Deeply appreciated.
Mhm.
Jim, so Jim Penny has his hand raised. Jim?
Yes, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Hold on.
Can't hear.
No, hold on. Wait a second. Let's get you unmuted.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry. I thought we asked it or said at the beginning of the meeting that the annual meeting would be discussed or determined tonight, but a special meeting is not the annual meeting. And so my curiosity is there some reason why we can all get together for a special meeting, but not hold the annual meeting?
Robert, may I make a
Yes.
comment?
Yes.
Thank you. The very motion introduced by Phil kind of convoluted the moving ahead on the annual meeting. So the special meeting will now have to determine the annual meeting.
Right. So, and Jim, I hear the want of the annual meeting. Our annual meeting was canceled because of a point of order of a member of the board back in April. And given the proximity of time, I, as president, see right now no need for this annual meeting because we will have an annual meeting in the next few months. So I want to focus on having the special meeting focus on when is the proper time to have the annual meeting. Let's do that first things first.
Robert, just a slight, there can only be one annual meeting,
Exactly.
hence the name.
Right.
And which has to be concurrent with the election, which is the very question that was raised by Mr. Denny.
Right. So So we're going to decide when the annual meeting will be at our December meeting.
At the special members meeting.
Special members meeting, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. David Dye.
Yeah, I just want to be clear about this. There is no annual meeting for the year 2020. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I would like to register a protest to that, or at least raise my voice in protest of that.
Okay. And David, I'm just saying this is my own personal, I hear that, and it was most unfortunate that our annual meeting was canceled.
Once again, there were plenty of opportunities throughout the year to have this meeting, and I'm disappointed in the board that they could not see fit to carry out this meeting.
Thank you. I hear that. Okay. All right. So I believe we are at the conclusion of the meeting. It's 8:41, and I call this November meeting adjourned. Thank you.